When four armed men cornered my daughter Fern in that empty office building at 2 a.m., I had nothing but a janitor's mop and 15 years of military training I'd never told anyone about. What happened next changed both our lives forever. Before we dive in, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? If you enjoy stories like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow's episode is truly mind-blowing. Let's get started. Let me tell you about the night I stopped being just a dad and became the father my daughter never knew she needed. My name is Dorian Clark, and for the past 15 years, I've been the night janitor at Cross Industries downtown. Every night I mop floors, empty trash cans, and clean windows on 40 floors of corporate offices. The executives who work there see me as invisible, just another face in uniform pushing a cart through their hallways. My daughter Fern is 19, a college freshman with my stubborn streak and her mother's fierce independence. She took a part-time security job at my building to help pay for school, monitoring cameras from the front desk while I worked upstairs. We'd wave at each other through security monitors, share coffee during my breaks, and I'd drive her home when our shifts ended. At dawn, she called me Pops, teased me about my collection of cleaning supplies, and had no idea that before she was born, I was Master Sergeant Dorian Clark, Special Forces operative with 3 combat tours and more classified missions than I could count. The woman whose building we worked in was CEO Vivian Cross, a sharp, demanding executive who built Cross Industries from nothing into a tech empire. She was fair but tough, the kind of leader who remembered every employee's name and never asked anyone to work harder than she did herself. To her, I was just the reliable night custodian who kept her headquarters spotless and never caused problems. But that Thursday night in November, when those 4 masked men broke into the building hunting for corporate secrets, everything changed. When I heard my daughter's terrified voice crackling through my radio, begging for help as they grabbed her and demanded access codes she didn't have, I realized that 15 years of hiding my past was about to end, because sometimes being a good father means your daughter has to meet the man you used to be. Sometimes protecting the person you love most means picking up whatever weapon you have, even if it's just a mop, and reminding the world that some skills never fade away. Sometimes the quiet life you built to keep your family safe becomes the very thing that puts them in danger. That night, in the marble lobby of Cross Industries, surrounded by men who thought they were hunting easy prey, my daughter Fern was about to discover that her gentle, predictable father had been keeping the biggest secret of his life. She was about to learn that the man who taught her to ride bikes and helped with homework had once been trained to neutralize threats with whatever tools were available. She was about to watch her janitor father take down 4 armed criminals, with nothing but a mop handle and the muscle memory of a soldier who never really stopped serving his country. And our CEO was about to realize that the quiet man who'd been protecting her building for 15 years had been protecting a lot more than just clean floors and empty offices. This is the story of the night everything changed, when a single father's greatest secret became his daughter's salvation, and when a janitor's mop became the most dangerous weapon in a 40-story building. People always ask me why I gave up a military career to push a mop around office buildings. The answer is simple and complicated at the same time. When my wife died in that car accident 15 years ago, I was deployed overseas, unable to get home in time to say goodbye. My 4-year-old daughter Fern was staying with my sister, crying for her mommy and asking why Daddy wasn't there to hold her. That's when I realized that being a hero to strangers meant nothing if I couldn't be there for the one person who needed me most. I finished my tour, declined re-enlistment despite 3 promotion offers, and came home to raise my little girl. The only job I could find that paid enough to support us and still let me be home during the day was night custodial work. While Fern slept, I cleaned offices. While she was at school, I slept. When she came home, I was there for homework, dinner, and bedtime stories. Cross Industries hired me when Fern was 6. The pay was decent, the benefits were solid, and the work was honest. I told them I had some security experience from the military, which wasn't exactly a lie, just not the whole truth. They gave me keys to every floor, access to every room, and trusted me with their building's safety. In return, I kept their secrets and their spaces spotless. Over the years, I watched their company grow from 30 employees to over 800. I saw young interns become department heads, witnessed late-night deals that made or broke careers, and cleaned up after celebrations and disasters alike. The executives learned to trust me because I was invisible and reliable. They'd discuss confidential projects while I emptied their trash, knowing the janitor would never repeat what he heard. CEO Vivian Cross was different from the others. She started every conversation with my name, asked about Fern's grades, and always said thank you. When Fern turned 16 and needed her first job, Vivian personally approved her application for weekend filing work. When Fern started college and needed more hours, Vivian created the part-time security position specifically for her. "Your daughter has your work ethic, Dorian," Vivian told me one morning as we passed in the lobby. "She's going places." She had no idea how accurate that statement would prove to be. Fern thrived in college, majoring in criminal justice with dreams of becoming a detective. She loved her security job because it felt like real police work. She'd study her textbooks. Between camera rounds, practice observation skills by tracking employee patterns, and quiz me about building security during our coffee breaks. "Pops, why do you think they put so many cameras on the executive floors?" she asked me one night scrolling through monitor feeds. "Probably protecting trade secrets and financial records," I answered, which was true but incomplete. I knew exactly what was on those floors because I'd been quietly observing and learning for 15 years, filing away information that soldier training never quite lets you ignore. "Do you ever think about doing something else?" she'd ask sometimes. "I mean, you're smart enough for any job you want." I'd always smile and change the subject. "How do you tell your daughter that you gave up saving the world to save her childhood? How do you explain that mopping floors felt more important than classified missions when it meant being there for parent-teacher conferences and soccer games?" The truth was, I loved our routine. We'd arrive at Cross Industries together at 10 p.m., Fern heading to the security desk while I loaded my cart with supplies. We'd check in with each other every hour over the radio, sharing jokes and observations about the building's quirks. At 6 a.m., we'd drive home together, stopping for breakfast burritos and talking about her classes or my plans for the day. Fern felt safe at Cross Industries because she knew I was always nearby. I felt peaceful knowing she was learning responsibility and independence in a controlled environment. Neither of us imagined that our quiet little world was about to explode. That Thursday night started like any other. Fern signed in with evening security, checked the camera systems, and settled at her desk, with textbooks spread around her workstation. I collected my cleaning supplies and headed for the elevators, planning to work my way down from the 40th floor. The building held that familiar after-hours stillness, broken only by the hum of ventilation systems and the distant sound of traffic 40 floors below. "Everything looks good down here, Pops." Fern's voice came through my radio around 11:30. "A few late workers on 36 and 22, but otherwise we're all clear." "Copy that, sweetheart. I'll be on 38 if you need anything." It was the last normal conversation we'd have for a very long time. At 1:47 a.m., I was buffing the marble floors on the 38th floor when Fern's voice cut through the radio static, sharp and urgent in a way I'd never heard before. "Pops, I've got movement on the service-level cameras." 4 men just came through the loading dock entrance. They shouldn't have access to that area. I stopped buffing and grabbed my radio. "Are you sure it's not maintenance or late delivery?" "Negative. They're wearing masks and moving like they know exactly where they're going. I'm calling building security protocol." My blood went cold. Building security protocol meant lockdown procedures, but it also meant Fern would try to confront these men if they reached her desk. I started moving toward the stairwell, my cleaning cart forgotten. "Fern, listen to me carefully. Lock yourself in the security office and do not come out until police arrive." "I can't, Pops. The lockdown system isn't responding. Someone's disabled it from the outside. These guys came prepared." Through my radio, I could hear keyboard clicking as she tried different emergency protocols. Then her voice changed, becoming the scared little girl I remembered from years ago. "They're in the elevator now, heading up. They're not stopping at any floors, just going straight to the top. Pops, I think they're after something specific." I was already in the stairwell, taking steps 3 at a time despite my 45-year-old knees. 15 years of mopping floors hadn't prepared me for this kind of cardio, but 15 years before that definitely had. How long until police arrive? 20 minutes? Maybe 25. There's a major accident on the interstate backing up. Emergency response. 20 minutes. In 20 minutes, these men could take whatever they wanted and disappear. Or worse, they could hurt my daughter. Fern, I need you to stay calm and tell me exactly what you see. They're on 39 now, moving toward the executive server room. Wait, one of them is coming back down. He's heading for the lobby. That's when I understood their plan. 3 men would handle the break-in upstairs, while one secured the exit and eliminated witnesses. The witness being my 19-year-old daughter, who could identify them all. Fern, you need to run. Right now, leave the building. I can't leave my post, Pops, and I won't leave you alone with these guys. This isn't a discussion. These men are dangerous. So am I. You taught me to stand my ground, remember? She was right, and that terrified me. I had taught her to be strong, to think clearly under pressure, to never back down from doing what's right. All the lessons I'd hoped she'd never need to use. The radio crackled again, and this time I could hear heavy footsteps in the background of her transmission. He's at my desk now. Big guy, maybe 6'2", wearing tactical gear. He's asking for access codes to the executive floors. My heart hammered against my ribs as I reached the 20th floor, still climbing as fast as my legs would carry me. Tell him you don't have them. I already did. He doesn't believe me. He thinks because I work security, I must have administrative access. Through the radio, I heard a deep male voice. Listen, little girl, we know you've got those codes. Your boss wouldn't leave this building unprotected without giving someone downstairs the access we need. I'm telling you, I just monitor cameras and check IDs. I don't have codes for anything above the 25th floor. The sound of something metal hitting the security desk echoed through my radio. Then I guess we'll have to convince you to find someone who does. Leave her alone. I couldn't stop myself from transmitting, even though it revealed my position. Who's this? Another security guard. Fern's voice came back, steady but scared. That's my father. He works maintenance here. Your father? How convenient. Tell Daddy to come down to the lobby. We'd like to have a conversation with both of you. I was on the 15th floor now, my military training warring with my paternal instincts. Every tactical bone in my body said to observe, assess, and plan before engaging. Every father cell in my DNA said to get to my daughter immediately, regardless of the odds. Pops, don't come down here. There are 3 more upstairs, and this guy's armed. Call the police and wait for backup. The police are 20 minutes away, sweetheart. You don't have 20 minutes. Through the radio, I heard the man laugh. Smart girl, Daddy's right. You don't have 20 minutes. You have about 2 minutes to decide whether you want this to be easy or hard. That's when I heard my daughter's voice change. Not scared anymore, but angry. She had her mother's temper and my stubborn streak, a combination that had gotten her out of trouble more times than into it. You want to know what's hard? Threatening a 19-year-old college student doing her job? You want to know what's easy? Walking away before you mess with the wrong family? I couldn't help but smile, even as terror filled my chest. That was my girl, brave to the end. But bravery wasn't going to stop 4 armed men. For that, she was going to need her father to remember who he used to be. I stopped running on the 12th floor and pressed my back against the stairwell wall. My heart was pounding. But for the first time in 15 years, it wasn't from fear or panic. It was from something I'd almost forgotten. The sharp focus that comes right before a mission begins. Through my radio, I could hear the man's voice getting more aggressive with Fern. 2 minutes just became 1 minute, sweetheart. Where are those access codes? I told you, I don't have them. Even if I did, I wouldn't give them to you. That's my girl. But her defiance was going to get her hurt, and I couldn't let that happen. Not when I had the skills to stop it. I keyed my radio one more time. Fern, I need you to do exactly what I tell you. Can you get to the supply closet behind your desk without him seeing you? Maybe, but Pops, no discussion. When I say go, you move. And whatever happens next, you stay hidden until it's over. What are you talking about? I'm not just anything, sweetheart. Trust me. I clicked off the radio and assessed my situation. 12 floors up from the lobby, with a maintenance elevator that could get me down faster than the stairs, but would announce my arrival. 4 armed professionals who thought they were dealing with a scared security guard and her custodian father. 1 mop, 1 bucket, and 15 years of suppressed muscle memory that was suddenly flooding back like a dam had burst. I grabbed my cleaning cart and wheeled it to the maintenance elevator. If these men had done their homework, they'd know the building's layout, but they wouldn't know its secrets. And after 15 years of cleaning every inch of this place, I knew secrets that even the architects had forgotten. The maintenance elevator descended slowly, giving me time to plan. The lobby had 3 entrances, 4 security cameras, and 2 blind spots near the information desk. The man holding Fern would be positioned where he could see all approaches, which meant he'd have his back to the executive corridor. The marble floors would be slippery from my earlier cleaning, and the overhead lights cast specific shadows that could be used for concealment. I was thinking like a soldier again, and it felt like putting on clothes that fit perfectly after wearing the wrong size for years. When the elevator reached the basement level, I got out and took the service tunnel that connected to the parking garage. From there, I could access the lobby through the maintenance door behind the information kiosks. It would put me 15 feet from Fern's desk, with clear sight lines and multiple exit routes. But first, I needed to modify my equipment. I unscrewed the mop head from its handle, leaving me with a 5-foot staff of reinforced aluminum. The bucket was industrial plastic, lightweight but sturdy enough to deflect or distract. The wheeled cart could provide cover or become a projectile if needed. More importantly, I needed to change my mindset. For 15 years, I'd been Dorian, Clark the janitor, a quiet man who avoided conflict and kept his head down. But Fern needed Master Sergeant Dorian Clark, the soldier who'd completed 37 successful missions in hostile territory. I closed my eyes and let the transformation happen. My breathing slowed and deepened. My shoulders squared and my posture straightened. The familiar weight of command responsibility settled over me like a second skin. When I opened my eyes, the mild-mannered custodian was gone. I moved through the service tunnel with practiced silence, every step deliberate and controlled. At the maintenance door, I paused to listen. Through the thin metal, I could hear the man's voice, closer now to Fern's position. "Time's up, little girl. Last chance to make this easy. Go to hell." That was definitely her mother's daughter. Cracked the door and peered through. The man was exactly where I'd predicted, standing over Fern's desk with his back partially to my position. He was bigger than his voice had suggested, maybe 220 with the build of someone who used intimidation as his primary tool. He held a pistol casually, not expecting resistance from a teenage girl and her janitor father. His mistake. I slipped through the door and moved along the wall, using the information kiosks for cover. The mop handle felt natural in my hands again, like a weapon I'd carried for years instead of a cleaning tool. My feet found the quiet spaces between marble tiles automatically, muscle memory guiding me through movements I'd practiced thousands of times in training. From this angle, I could see Fern crouched behind her desk, her eyes wide but determined. She spotted me moving and I held up one finger, then pointed toward the supply closet. She nodded slightly and began to shift her position. The man was still talking, enjoying his moment of power over someone he saw as helpless. "Maybe your daddy will be more cooperative when he sees what happens to little girls who don't follow instructions." That was the last mistake he'd ever make, threatening my daughter. I stepped out of the shadows, mop handle in a relaxed grip, looking, for all the world, like a confused janitor who'd stumbled onto something he didn't understand. "Excuse me, is there a problem here?" The man turned toward me with the lazy confidence of someone who'd never encountered real resistance. He saw exactly what I wanted him to see, a middle-aged janitor in work clothes, holding a mop like he wasn't sure what to do with it. "Get lost, old man. This doesn't concern you." "Actually, it does. That's my daughter you're threatening." He laughed, a sound that died in his throat when he saw my stance shift. I was no longer holding the mop handle like a cleaning tool. It was positioned across my body in a defensive grip that any military-trained person would recognize instantly. Your daughter needs to learn some manners, and you need to learn who you're dealing with. The transformation happened in the space between one heartbeat and the next. The mop handle whipped across his wrist with surgical precision, striking the pressure point that controls grip strength. His pistol clattered to the marble floor as his fingers went numb. He stared at his empty hand for half a second, shock replacing arrogance. What the hell? The handle caught him under the chin with an upward thrust that snapped his head back and sent him staggering. Before he could recover, I swept his legs with the bottom end of the staff, dropping him hard onto the slippery marble. "Fern, stay down," I called out, not taking my eyes off the man struggling to get back to his feet. "Pops, how are you doing that?" "I'll explain later, sweetheart." The man lunged at me, thinking his size advantage would matter. In close quarters, I spun the handle like a baton, striking his solar plexus and driving the air from his lungs. As he doubled over, I brought my knee up to meet his face, and he dropped like a stone. "One down," I said, grabbing his pistol and checking the chamber. 3 to go. That's when I heard heavy footsteps on the stairwell. The others had heard the commotion and were coming down to investigate. "Fern, I need you to call 911 and tell them we have an active situation. Multiple armed intruders, 1 down, 3 still active." She was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. "Who are you?" "I'm your father. But before that I was Master Sergeant Dorian Clark, United States Special Forces. And right now, that's who you need me to be." The stairwell door burst open and 2 men rushed out, weapons drawn. They expected to find their partner handling a simple security problem. Instead, they found him unconscious on the floor, and a janitor, holding his gun with the confidence of someone who knew how to use it. "Drop your weapons," I commanded, and my voice carried the authority of 15 years of combat leadership. They didn't drop them. They opened fire. I was already moving, diving behind the information desk as bullets sparked off marble and shattered glass. Fern screamed from the supply closet, and that sound triggered something primal in me that no amount of civilian life could suppress. These men had made the mistake of threatening my daughter. Now they were going to learn what happens when you corner a soldier whose only mission is protecting his family. I rolled out from behind the desk, firing twice with mechanical precision. Both men dropped their weapons and dove for cover behind the elevator bank. The third man appeared at the top of the stairwell, assault rifle in hand. "You picked the wrong building to rob," I shouted, using the desk for cover while I assessed angles and distances. "And you definitely picked the wrong girl to threaten." "Who is this guy?" one of them yelled. "Doesn't matter," the rifleman called. "Back. We finish this and get out." That's when the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing the lobby in red shadows that turned the marble floor into a maze of dark spots and bright reflections. But I knew this building in the dark better than they knew it in daylight. I moved like smoke, using pillars and furniture for cover while I repositioned. The mop handle became an extension of my arm, striking without warning from angles they couldn't predict. One man went down from a throat strike that left him gasping. Another fell when I swept his legs and drove the staff into his kidney. The rifleman had the high ground, but couldn't get a clear shot without hitting his own men. His advantage became his liability when I used their positions to box him in. "This is impossible," he muttered, firing wild shots that missed by yards. "No," I said, appearing behind him after circling through the maintenance corridors. "This is what happens when you threaten someone's family." The rifle clattered down the stairs as he joined his friends in unconsciousness. In the sudden silence, I stood among 4 disabled criminals, holding a mop handle and breathing like I'd just finished a light workout instead of a tactical engagement. "Pops?" Fern's voice was tiny from the supply closet. "It's over, sweetheart. You can come out now." She emerged slowly, stepping carefully around unconscious bodies and broken glass. When she reached me, she stopped 3 feet away, studying my face like she was trying to recognize a stranger. "You're not just a janitor." "No, but I'm still your father." That's when the lobby doors burst open and CEO Vivian Cross rushed in, with 6 security guards and half the city's police force behind her. Vivian stopped dead in the doorway, taking in the scene before her. 4 unconscious men in tactical gear scattered across her pristine marble lobby. Broken glass and bullet holes in the walls. Her night janitor standing calmly in the center of it all, still holding a mop handle like it was the most natural weapon in the world. "What in God's name happened here?" Before I could answer, Fern stepped forward, her voice still shaky but gaining strength. "These men broke in to steal company secrets. They threatened to hurt me when I couldn't give them access codes I don't Have. My father stopped them. Your father? Vivian looked at me with new eyes. Dorian, how did you? I used to be in the military, ma'am, before Fern was born. The lead detective, a grizzled man named Rodriguez who'd seen everything, in 30 years on the force, knelt beside the first man I'd taken down. These guys are professionals. Military-grade equipment, tactical training, coordinated entry. Whoever stopped them knew exactly what they were doing. He stood up and studied me carefully. What branch? Army, Special Forces. Rank? Master. Sergeant when I mustered out. Rodriguez nodded slowly. That explains it. These four have been hitting corporate targets across 3 states for the past year. FBI's been hunting them for months. You just did us all a favor. Over the next hour, as police processed the scene and paramedics checked the unconscious criminals, the full scope of what had happened became clear. The men were part of a sophisticated industrial espionage ring, targeting tech companies for their research data. Cross Industries had been on their list because of breakthrough patents worth millions in the competitive market. They would have killed us, Fern said quietly as we sat in Vivian's office giving our statements. If you hadn't been here, if you hadn't known how to fight them, we'd both be dead. I reached over and squeezed her hand. But we're not. That's what matters. Why didn't you ever tell me? The question I'd been dreading finally came. All these years I thought you were just a janitor. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with being a janitor, but you were a soldier. You were a hero. I was a soldier, I corrected. But I became a hero the day I decided to raise you instead of continuing to serve overseas. Everything I did in the military, I did for strangers. Everything I've done since, I've done for you. Vivian had been listening quietly, but now she spoke up. Dorian, I need to ask you something. Did you know our security weaknesses? Is that how you moved through the building so effectively? After 15 years of cleaning every inch of this place? Yes, ma'am. I know where every camera has blind spots, which doors have the quietest hinges, how to move through the maintenance areas without being detected. I never thought about it as surveillance, but old habits die hard. She leaned back in her chair, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Old habits. 15 years you've been protecting this building without any of us knowing we had a guardian angel on the night shift. Just doing my job, ma'am. No, you were doing much more than that. Rodriguez told me what those men were capable of. Without your intervention, this could have been a massacre. They would have taken what they wanted and eliminated all witnesses. 2 weeks later, I found myself back in Vivian's office, but this time the conversation was very different. I'm offering you the position of Director of Security, she said, sliding a contract across her desk. Full benefits, salary that's 4 times what you're making now, and authority over all building safety protocols. I looked at the numbers and felt dizzy. This kind of money would pay for Fern's entire college education without loans. It would give us the security I'd always worried about providing on a janitor's wages. There's one condition, I said. Name it. I keep the night shift. I've grown to love the quiet hours, and frankly, this building is most vulnerable when everyone thinks it's safe. Vivian laughed. Deal. Though I suspect our insurance premiums are going to drop significantly when they learn about your background. 6 months later, I still walk the same routes through Cross Industries, but now I wear a security uniform instead of custodial clothes. The mop bucket sits in my office as a reminder, and employees who once saw me as invisible now nod respectfully when we pass in the halls. Fern finished her freshman year with a 4.0 GPA and changed her major from criminal justice to cybersecurity. I want to protect people like you do, Pops, but with computers instead of mop handles. She still works part-time at the building, but now as my assistant, learning about real security systems instead of just monitoring cameras. Our relationship is stronger than ever because there are no more secrets between us. Sometimes she asks about my military service, and I share what I can. Other times, she just hugs me and says, "Thank you for choosing to be my dad instead of a soldier." The truth is, I never stopped being a soldier. I just found something worth protecting that mattered more than any mission I'd ever been given.